I wanted to give you guys a little bit of behind the scenes of the physics of the Tokyo rig and why I believe it's such a more versatile bait and a better function of a flipping bait than necessarily the old school flipping bait. The old school flipping bait still has its purposes for different types of vegetation, but what I really love about the Tokyo rig is look how free hanging it is right there. See, when you're flipping this in a giant mat and the bait's sitting there shaking, the fish is actually, he's able to just grab the bait itself, and he doesn't have this whole weight hung in his mouth. So when he grabs it, and this is not necessarily like throwing a drop shot, it's really power fishing one, and you're throwing 65-pound braid, so you're really applying the pressure. And when you're flipping that big of a weight, at times it would open his mouth up. And the great versatility of the Tokyo rig, he's able to just grab the bait and then you're setting the hook, compared to the normal T-rig style where these are both 1.5 ounce weights. That fish grabs the entire bait itself. And when you're giving him that jar of a hook set and you're trying to bring him out of that mat, that old school style, that weight would really, it'd pop his mouth open. And the hookup ratio in this it's about 50-50 sometimes, you know. You're able to land a lot of fish, but you would lose a lot of fish just on hookups or just trying to pull them out of the mat because that weight's just flinging around and it would just jar that hook loose, compared to the Tokyo rig now where the fish is able to get just the bait in the hook and not the weight in his mouth. That way your hookup ratio is a lot better because he doesn't have the whole assembly in his mouth, compared to the old school style of the normal Texas rig flipping system with a pegged weight, a normal flipping hook, and that weight's not the first thing that hits his mouth. With the Tokyo rig, the first thing that he touches is going to be the point of the hook. When you're flipping the Tokyo rig itself with even this big of a weight, the bait penetrates well. It's very streamlined, it goes into the mat, and then when you go into it, you're able just to shake it in there, and when that fish grabs it, all he's getting is just the bait and not just the weight in his mouth. So it's not popping his mouth open and you're hooking a lot more fish. And now when playing with the Tokyo rig, you got to think about it as well. The old school Texas rig, the pegged Texas rig with the big weight, it'll never be replaced. There's always a time and place for it. This is one of the most universal and most fish catching bait there is. It's just a Texas rig bait no matter which size you put on it. But just playing with the Tokyo rig, there's a time and a place for everything, and these are just different tools in your arsenal. It's like a 9/16 wrench to a 1/2 ounce wrench. It's a 1/2 inch. It's just everything has a purpose and a time and a place. It's like this, the old school peg may be better for reeds or something, where this might be a little bit better in hydrilla. It's something you really got to play with, and it's good to have it in your arsenal, so when that application comes about, you always have something that perfectly fits.